like and subscribe, and leave a comment below. The Hunter. B.N.Rocker peered through the dense forest, with his breath misting in the chilly morning air. He'd been tracking deer for hours, hoping to bring home meat for his family. But now, the tracks in the snow were unlike anything he'd ever seen. Large, padded prints. What kind of beast had he stumbled upon? David moved cautiously, with his shotgun at the ready. He followed the tracks deeper into the forest, where the trees grew thicker and the light dimmer. As he rounded a bend, he caught a fleeting glimpse of movement, a flash of fur, a shadow darting between the trees. He raised his rifle, but whatever it was had vanished. He pressed on, his senses heightened, with every rustle of the wilderness, setting his nerves on edge. The forest grew darker as the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows that seemed to dance and shift. David's breath came in short, frosty puffs as he trudged on, his mind racing with possibilities. The stories his grandfather used to tell him about mysterious creatures in the woods resurfaced, tales of beings in the woods like Bigfoot, the Yeti, and other names lost to time. Suddenly, the forest opened up into a small clearing, and there it was. The creature stood on the far side, partially obscured by underbrush. It was tall, standing on two legs with sleek dark fur and eyes that gleamed with an eerie intelligence. David's breath was caught in his throat. It was like nothing he'd ever seen, yet it seemed almost familiar. The creature looked at him for a moment before turning and disappearing into the woods. David hesitated, then gave chase, driven by curiosity and a hunter's instinct. As he followed, the forest seemed to close in around him. The tracks became harder to follow, and he had the unsettling sensation that the roles were reversing. It was no longer clear who was hunting whom. Shadows moved at the edge of his vision, and strange sounds echoed through the trees. Whispers, almost like voices. David paused, his heart hammering in his chest. He strained to listen, but the forest had fallen silent again. He took a deep breath and pressed on, determined to unravel the mystery. The tracks led him up a steep incline, where the trees grew even thicker and the shadows deeper. At the top of the incline, he found another clearing, this one larger and surrounded by towering pines. He stopped to catch his breath, scanning the area for any sign of the creature. The silence was unnerving, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw a flicker of movement. He turned quickly, but again, the creature was gone. He took a few cautious steps forward, his senses on high alert. The ground here was covered in a thick layer of snow, and the tracks were clearer. They led to a large rock formation at the edge of the clearing. David approached the rocks, with his rifle raised. He peered around the edge of the largest boulder and froze. There, perched on a ledge, was the creature. It looked down at him with those same intelligent eyes, its expression almost curious. David felt a strange connection to the creature, as if it were trying to communicate with him. He lowered his rifle slightly, not wanting to provoke it. The creature tilted its head, studying him. Then, to his astonishment, it spoke. "We are the Fellini," it said, its voice soft, carrying a hint of an accent David couldn't place. "We have lived alongside your kind for centuries, trying to remain unseen." The Fellini said, "They were the legends of old, tales of mysterious creatures mistaken for Bigfoot, the Yeti, the Mothman, the skunk ape, and many other names around the world." "Why reveal yourself to me?" David asked, with his voice trembling. "Because you are different," the Fellini replied. "You seek understanding, not conquest. Your heart is still in tune with the rhythm of the forest, unlike many of your kind who have forgotten their place in the world." David felt a touch of guilt. The Fellini's words struck a chord. Humanity had indeed strayed from its roots, often living as if separate from nature, as if gods among lesser creatures. He looked into the Fellini's eyes and saw not a monster, but a guardian, a keeper of the ancient balance. "How have you remained hidden for so long?" David asked. "We are masters of our environment," the Fellini explained. "We know the ways of the forest, the rhythms of nature. We can move unseen, blend into the shadows. Your kind has forgotten these skills, relying instead on technology and domination." David nodded slowly. "You live in harmony with the world." "Yes," the Fellini said, but there are still those among you who remember the old ways, who respect the natural order. You are one of them, B.N.Rocker. I won't tell anyone about you, David said. Your secret is safe with me. The fellaini nodded. Thank you, B.N.Rocker. Continue to walk the path of harmony, and perhaps one day your kind will remember the old ways. With that, the fellaini turned and melted back into the forest, leaving David alone in the clearing. He stood there for a long moment, the weight of what he'd experienced settling over him. Finally, he turned and began the long walk back to his family, his heart lighter, his mind clearer. As he walked, David replayed the encounter in his mind. The fellaini were not the monsters of legend, but guardians of the forest, living in a way that humanity had forgotten. He felt a newfound respect for the world around him, a desire to reconnect with the natural order. The forest seemed different now, more alive, as if he could feel the presence of the fellaini watching over it. He paused by a stream to drink, with the cold water refreshing him. As he looked around, he noticed things he hadn't before: the tracks of small animals, the patterns of the trees, the sounds of the birds. David knew that the world was full of mysteries, many of which were better left undiscovered. As he walked, he made a silent vow to live more in tune with nature, to honor the ancient pact between man and the wild. And perhaps one day humanity would remember its place in the great tapestry of life, living not as conquerors, but as caretakers of the world they shared. Back home, David shared his experience with his family. Though he left out the specifics of the fellaini, he spoke of the importance of living in harmony with nature, of respecting the world around them. His words resonated with his children, who listened with wide eyes and eager hearts. In the days that followed, David made changes. He spent more time in the forest, teaching his children the ways of the wild, how to track and understand the animals, how to respect the land. They learned to see the world through new eyes, to appreciate the beauty and balance of nature. Years passed, and David's family grew. His children carried forward his teachings, passing them on to their own children. The legacy of harmony with nature became a part of their lives, a guiding principle that shaped their actions. David often thought of the fellaini and the encounter that had changed his life. He knew they were still out there, watching, protecting the forest, and he was content knowing that he had done his part to honor their secret, to live in a way that respected the ancient balance. In the end, B.N.Rocker became a legend in his own right, a man who had seen the true guardians of the forest and chosen to walk a path of harmony and respect. His story was told around campfires and in the homes of his descendants, a reminder of the importance of living in balance with the world around them. And so, the fellaini lived on, not just in the hidden corners of the forest, but in the hearts of those who chose to remember the old ways, to live as caretakers of the world they shared. This is not goodbye, nor the end. Until the story continues, my friends. B.N.Rocker.